Kia ora, kia ora, kia ora. Welcome to tonight's online event. Thank you so much for taking time out of your night to join us. It's so wonderful to have everyone here. I'm Mandy Kupenga. I'm your host for this Greenpeace conversation to mark World Oceans Day. I'm here with the wonderful Ellie and Juan from Greenpeace, and I'm all excited to hear about what's going on, team. I'm going to ask you a ton of questions like I always do, but first a little bit of Zoomy housekeeping bizzo. This session is being recorded, so we encourage you to use your video, but it's totally your personal preference. And also there is a Q&A function in the Zoom. Please do pop your questions in there. You can actually vote for each other's questions too, to pop the popular ones to the top. We're not going to do any hand raising, but we do have a section in the second half for questions, and so we'll dig into those then. But before we start, it's nice to meet you all. No, ko Mandy Kupenga aho, no tai rāwhiti aho, ko hikurangi te maunga, ko te mata te awa, ko Ngāti Porou te iwi. I'm from Gisborne. I'm a hoary little Gizzy girl from way back, but I've lived in Auckland for the past 25 years, and I've spent almost 2 decades working in corporate management. Then I pivoted slightly and started filming fishing shows on TV. Then I became an environmentalist and a campaigner, and now I'm a storyteller and producer, combining environmental ocean campaigning, documentary movie making, social media strategies, and big old whacks of corporate call to action marketing. My latest project is called Heal the Hauraki, and it shares the exact same ethos as today's kaupapa, love for our ocean, and putting our care and aroha into our actions. You know, what we do makes all the difference. I'm an ocean lover. I think our oceans are magnificent. The oceans sustain life on our planet. They are our life support systems. And as David Attenborough, my hero, says, if we save the seas, we save our world. So while it's a casual Thursday for most, we're here doing our bit to save the planet. So welcome, everyone. It's so good to have you here. And I'd like to introduce our Greenpeace campaigners for tonight. Juan is Greenpeace Aotearoa's oceans campaigner. He's deeply committed to protecting our blue planet. Born in Colombia and calling Tamaki Makoto home since 2012. Juan's love for the ocean began as a teenage scuba diver exploring the marine ecosystems of Colombia's tropical coast. Wow, dude, I bet you've got some stories. Today, he channels that passion into the fight to defend our oceans, from stopping destructive bottom trawling to advocating for marine sanctuary in the South Tasman Sea. He's driven by a mission to inspire collective action for environmental and social justice. Beautiful, e hoa. And we also have the amazing Ellie. Now, I've worked on a number of campaigns with Ellie on it for about the last 4 or 5 years now. We've worked together on bottom trawling, global oceans treaties, cameras on boat, and a few more. What I love about Ellie is her passion, her determination, and her skills. She's got such amazing skills when it comes to ocean campaigning, and she does it all with this bright, sunny disposition, which I think is amazing. She's absolute fire when it comes to campaigning, and as a person, she's really caring and thoughtful and lovely. She's one of my favourite ocean people, so I am so happy to be here with you both today to have this kōrero. As I said, we're here to mark World. Hey, yeah. As I said, we're here to mark World Oceans Day, and as you can tell, I love talking about our moana, even the good, the bad, and the ugly. And there are some really big challenges and issues that we face, which is why we do this mahi, which is why we're here to talk about it, and which is why it's so important. And plus, like I said, I love hearing about the campaigns and the mahi that my Greenpeace whānau are up to. We must protect and restore the health of our oceans, and that's why we're here. So there's so much to talk about. We're going to talk a little bit about and the epic expedition that you embarked on, Ellie, into the middle of the Tasman Sea. We're going to talk about opportunities coming up with the Global Oceans Treaty for new ocean sanctuaries. There's a very special and historically significant visitor coming to our shores in July that we're going to talk about with you, Juan, and a whole lot more. So let's dive in, team. Let's dive in. Ellie, I'm going to start with you. like I said, we've worked together on a few campaigns over these years, and I'm really keen to find out the latest about what's happening out there with you. So perhaps let's start with your recent expedition to the Lord Howe Rise in the middle of the Tasman Sea. The Tasman Sea, of course, is between Australia and New Zealand. You were right out there in the middle of it, doing some amazing work. Why did you go there, and what were you doing?
Kia ora koutou, and thanks, Mandy, for the really lovely, warm introduction. You're one of my favourite ocean people as well. So the Seamounts expedition that we just undertook in March 2025 was an expedition to head out into the high seas of the Tasman, just as Mandy explained. And it was designed to go and capture imagery and to study these deep sea seamount ecosystems out there in the high seas areas. And the reason to do that was kind of twofold. So one was that we've been running this bottom trawling campaign for decades, and we've been advocating for protection for especially vulnerable ecosystems like seamounts for years and years. But we've really struggled to show people what we're talking about because these areas are so deep. You're talking about, a kilometre under the waves. And so we thought, what amazing campaign value it would have if we could actually go down and see what was there and capture kind of the imagery from down there. The sad side of it is that, we know a lot of these areas already have been hammered by bottom trawl fishing, that hugely destructive form of fishing that drags those nets over these kind of coral ecosystems that grow on seamounts. So we expected to find destruction as well. So we knew we were going to see some destruction, and we really hoped that we were going to find some intact life. And we hoped that by going down and getting the proof, essentially, we would really be able to further the campaign and show what we're talking about, what's been lost, but also what is still possible to save. So that, in a nutshell, is kind of why we went out to do it. It fits into
And that's really important, Ellie? Like what you're talking about, capturing what it looks like, because it's hard when you can't visualize or see something. It's hard to connect with it, and it's hard to care for it. If we look at the background behind you, we see this beautiful blue mirror surface, but underneath there's some really underneath is what we need to see. So you being able to go out there and gather those images so we can actually see what is down there and connect with it, so we can care more for it. It's really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the imagery in itself is the one thing to help that connection. But I think the other part was that we collaborated on this expedition with a whole bunch of different people, including several scientists. And it was a scientific mission at its heart, in the sense that what we know is that if we can prove what's down there, if we can prove there are certain species down there, we can potentially push harder for these areas to be closed to bottom trawling and to be protected. So that was kind of part of the mission. It was a hugely ambitious undertaking. We hired a vessel specifically for its purpose. We designed the survey together with the science team. And essentially there's probably a picture somewhere in this slideshow. We spent just over 3 weeks at sea, most of that out in the high seas of Tasman, very, very far from land. We did not see many other vessels. We saw a lot of albatross floating out there.
Oh, wow. Oh my
And
God. That would have been
very,
amazing.
they thought they were going to get fed, I think, hanging around our boat. I think they thought we were a fishing vessel. Um, we ran surveys day after day after day after day, as often as we could, by putting this what we call a drop camera over the side of the vessel and into the deep. Yes, that's the camera you can see there. It doesn't look like the most sophisticated piece of equipment. This thing is deceptively effective. When I saw it the first day, I thought, that looks like a piece of how is that going to go to the deep sea? Sometimes the simple thing really gets it done. So like what you're looking at there, and you can see our drop cam operator, John Murphy, just sat kitting it out. So underneath that sort of A-frame, you've got multiple laser pointers, you've got lights, and you've got, I think, at least 3 cameras. And
Wow.
it's all mechanical, right? So we dropped it over the side, and then it was kind of wheeled down into the depths. And we knew, obviously, we had the data so that we knew how deep we were trying to go, so that we didn't kind of randomly slam into the seafloor. But you'd see this quite incredible. I got really addicted to the journey down. So it goes over the side of the ship, and then you have about between 15 to 30 minutes, depending on the depth, of just what feels like you're flying through space. So you're just like, you're going
Wow.
quite fast through the ocean, and you're just seeing particles and lasers and lights, and it really does feel like you're going to outer space, which
Wow.
is interesting because I feel like that's kind of what the deep sea is
Yeah,
like.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
so alien.
How deep? How deep was it? How deep were you guys going?
We did lots of different depths, but the deepest we went was about 1,200 meters, so 1.2 kilometers.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
so rad.
it was very cool. I mean, out on the Lord Howe Rise, one of the sites that we surveyed, that felt quite crazy, like knowing how deep the chain of seamounts was beneath us. We actually managed to have a swim
Yes.
over that seamount chain as well. We jumped in the water on a really hot day. That was our one swim stop. And I just couldn't stop thinking when we were like swimming, that what was below us, like what we had seen earlier that day, like in the depths, it's quite.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, it'll be so different from our inshore, right? And what were you like? So you got the footage, and what was the purpose, the other purpose for it? Because there's when we look at the Global Oceans Treaty, there's other opportunities out there that that's going to come from this expedition, right?
Yeah, totally. So this it's central to our campaign. So the Tasman Sea area that you introduced earlier, um, this area has been earmarked as kind of a priority site for protection because it is so biodiverse. It has a huge number of migratory species. It's also a volcanic lost world with these seamounts and incredible features. So
Mm.
a very long time ago, it has been earmarked as a place that should be prioritized for some type of protection. Now, a couple of years ago, those in the know on this call will recall that we agreed a global oceans treaty at the UN, which will basically allow for us to create protected areas in international waters, something that is not possible currently because it's outside of countries' jurisdiction. So
Yeah.
what's
So
happening?
just for our viewers, so we've got the New Zealand zone, the EEZ, and then outside of our zone is the open oceans, and it's the same more or less for each country, right? And the
Yeah.
Global Oceans Treaty agreed to protect 30% of those areas that are currently pretty unregulated, right?
So it didn't, I think, yeah, this is probably splitting hairs. The treaty itself doesn't designate 30 by 30, but
Yeah.
there's several things happening in parallel. So years ago, as you say, Mandy, a huge number of scientists from around the world signed this open letter saying we need to protect 30% of the land and sea if we're to protect biodiversity, if we're to avoid the worst of climate change. And the Global Oceans Treaty is something that's been being negotiated for years, and it is the mechanism that will allow, in terms of
Yeah.
those international areas of ocean, which makes up a huge portion of our oceans, that is what's going to allow us to create those areas out in the high seas. So the treaty's been agreed. We've still got to bring it in to force. But what's been happening in parallel is that Greenpeace and other allies, many, many other groups around the world, have been looking at, okay, well, what needs to happen first? Where are the areas that are the most biodiverse, that are the most important to protect? And the Tasman
Yes,
Sea
priorities.
is one of them. And I think for us, that comes as no surprise. We've been talking about the Tasman Sea for a long time when it comes to trying to stop New Zealand bottom trawling threat out there. So really, this work feeds into that work to get more comprehensive protection. Like what we think is that there's no place out there for New Zealand bottom trawlers. We're the last country to be operating a fleet on these ecosystems out in the high seas of the South Pacific, and it really needs to stop,
Yes. Yes.
especially in the context that now this whole region is being looked at for being.
Ellie's froze.
I think that really the trawling, have I just broken up?
Frozen a little bit.
Right.
Oh, internet connection unstable. That's not great.
You're out on the high seas, Ellie, yeah. Yeah, so like, just from my understanding, so it was agreed at that international level, and now what happens is that countries and regions have to decide which of the areas in the high seas they want to protect, and that's a combination. Well, ultimately the government makes those decisions, right? But, and correct me if I'm wrong, in the past, sometimes these decisions are made not for environmental reasons, more for commercial reasons. And that's why it's really important that we let people know that there are some really rich biodiverse areas that should be at the forefront of these areas, right? Is that right?
I think yes, you really nailed it. I mean, I think the issue that we've had in the past, pre kind of ocean treaty, is that sometimes what happens when we start talking about ocean protection is the conversation turns to, okay, yeah, we can have ocean protection, but so long as it's not happening where I want to bottom trawl or where I want to long line or where I want to mine. And it hasn't worked for the ocean because it's essentially in a dire state, and we see that kind of from report after report after report. We know we've got to do some things differently. That was the reason why the Global Ocean Treaty came into being, and it's really important that we use it in the right way, and that what doesn't happen is we create a bunch of paper parks or kind of weak protections that won't do the job that we need them to do. We're not protecting it for protection's sake. We're protecting it because we know when we outlaw multiple threats from a large area, that area can really rebound in a huge way. Research has shown that when you do that, when you kind of outlaw all the destructive threats from an area, you just get a lot more return on your investment. You get faster recovery, you get way more fish, you get the spillover effect into the rest of the ocean. You know, we know this, but it does, it requires, unfortunately, hard calls, because it does mean saying this type of activity cannot happen here because it's too biodiverse and it needs this kind of protection. So I think that's the place where we're in at the moment, and let's really let's hope that if we keep pushing that we will be able to get meaningful ocean protection, because I think we have to.
Oh, we absolutely have to. Like, we absolutely have to. And so I think it's really important that people know that while these protection zones will be put in place, it's also really important that the right zones are put in place. Not just sort of ticking boxes to satisfy folks, but them not actually being meaningful and making a difference. So that's why I love that work, the work that you're doing, and learning about what you're doing, Ellie, and the Lord Howe Rise, and keeping across this, because it's so important that we push the decision makers to make a genuinely environmental decision when it comes to these, right?
Yeah, totally. And you're right that you know, a state or states, they actually have to sort of present the proposal for the protected area. They have to take that to the UN. But I think that there's a huge role that, you know, civil society and the public can play. I think we've seen that time and time again, that like that public noise and public pressure, it really matters. A lot of governments do listen to the people when we push them hard enough, and so I think that's part of Greenpeace's role, and probably part of a lot of the reason why a lot of people on this call have joined.
Yeah, amazing. And so what can we look out for to support the work that you're doing with the Global Oceans Treaty, Ellie, in these protected areas?
So I guess sign the petition. That's I know that's really the most boring answer ever, but yes, it really does.
But it's so easy.
Those numbers,
it's so easy. Sign a petition. It's easy. Sign a petition. Easy. Done. Everyone's going to sign a petition.
share the petition. I mean, another really
Yeah.
a really useful thing to do is to write to your MP to talk about the fact that you care about this. I think it's no secret, and I'm sure we'll get into this later in the piece, but we do not have a government currently who are friendly to nature, who are champions of nature. But I think it's really important that we make everybody know, let everybody know that we do expect protection, we do expect better for the ocean, and that's what New Zealanders really care about.
Yes, and we can hold them accountable by just keeping in touch with your updates and what is happening, and I find them really helpful. So, thanks, Ellie. So good to know. And now we're going to move on, and I want to talk to you, Juan. No, we only just met today, face to face, but obviously, Mandy, I've been following your mahi, and you've had your hands full with bottom trawling as well, seabird mining, and you've been doing some really fantastic work in that space, like the 30,000 petition that you handed in last year down in Wellington for the bottom trawling on the Hauraki Gulf. Amazing. And so much more. But what I'd like to talk to you about to start off with is, we have a very special and historically significant guest gracing our shores in July. Can you tell us who's coming and what's happening?
Oh yes, I'm very excited about this, and as I'm sure many people are, in July this year, and as part of all this work that Ellie has been talking about, we have the visit of the Rainbow Warrior 3. So this is the flagship vessel of the Greenpeace fleet. It's a ship that has very colorful history, that has campaigned all over the world, that has a very special place in New Zealand history and in the hearts of New Zealanders, in our cultural history here.
Sure does, yeah.
And it is coming because 40 years ago, the original Rainbow Warrior, this is Rainbow Warrior 3, the original one was bombed in Marsden Wharf here in Auckland. So
yes, and that was a moment in history.
Exactly, and the people that were around that remember it very personally. Like everyone you talk to has some sort of connection of, oh, I was there, I went there the next day, I know someone who was there, my uncle walked by, whatever, like everyone finds a way to connect with it, and it is so important because at the time, of course, the Rainbow Warrior was campaigning for a nuclear-free Pacific, to stopping the testing of nuclear bombs. And well, I don't need to say how important that part of being nuclear-free is for the New Zealand identity, and that victory just came through the bombing, through the ship, and through the support of the people here, which is this really beautiful example of people power.
It is, mate, and it's also a stark reminder of the political nature of the environmental work that you do as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because of course, well, why was the Rainbow Warrior bombed? Because it was being uncomfortable for the French government. They didn't want that criticism. They didn't want that questioning. And in a way, we are seeing that that's still happening. Like just a couple of days ago, that we saw the story that the Arctic sunrise is not being allowed to enter the Nice and the United Nations Oceans, the UNOC, the Oceans Conference that they're holding, because they have just acted against bottom trawling over there, and the French are uncomfortable with that. So in a way, history is repeating itself, and Greenpeace is this is what we do. This is part of our history. We have been bombed, we have been sued, we have been imprisoned in Russia, but we just don't give up. We keep going, we keep trying, and we keep fighting for what is right.
Yeah, that's right. You do, and that's why celebrating the return of the third Rainbow Warrior. Why is it the third one? What happened to the second one?
Yeah, the second one was retired. It's currently in Bangladesh. It has been converted into a hospital ship of some sort. So it is still doing good work. It's just not the Rainbow Warrior anymore. It has a new name
Gotcha.
and a new mission. But it,
Gotcha.
yeah, it is still around, and it was replaced because this one is a custom built ship. So the previous ones were
So
adapted and used by Greenpeace for campaigning. This was built for campaigning. The Rainbow Warrior
incredible.
3 is a campaigning platform. That's why it has all the tools and all the banners and all the like technology
Yes.
that we need
Cool.
for campaigning at sea. Yes, which is our
Amazing.
skill.
And so when is it coming? Where is it going to be? And what have you got planned for while it's here?
Yeah, so it has been crossing over from Australia through the Tasman Sea, doing some work in the
Mhm.
region that Ellie was talking about in the area marked for a sanctuary. It has been
Yeah.
highlighting the beauty of that region, and we can expect to have it
Amazing.
here in early July. So it's coming
Ooh.
for the anniversary, which is 10th of July of
Yeah.
1985 was when the bombing happened. So we expect
Wow.
the warrior to be arriving for that date. We have a couple of
Wow.
events planned where people can come and support
Cool.
and join us with the boat. And then we will have open boats on the weekends where if you have been to one of
Yes.
those before, you know just how much fun it is. People can come, bring their kids, bring their family, check out the boat. We will have all our campaign information so that people can get involved. We will have some face painting. We're trying to get some music going on. Like, yeah, watch this
Wicked.
space. It's gonna be so much fun.
Ah, that sounds awesome. I've never been on one of the rainbow boats, rainbow warrior boats or Greenpeace boats. So I'm amping to come down and get my face painted and hang out.
Yeah, definitely come around. Yeah, it'll be in Wynyard and they are in the viaduct here in Auckland. And yeah, we will have
Amazing.
it for 2 weekends. So the
Oh,
weekend
yes.
of the 12th and the 19th.
Amazing. Amazing. Oh, putting that in my calendar. Put that in your calendar, everyone, or just follow the socials and you'll hear all about them.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
understand. So it's en route at the moment, but like something just happened while they were out there. Did they discover something? What happened there, maybe?
Yeah, well they have been concentrating on long lining, which is a different kind of fishing. We concentrate on bottom trawling because
Yes.
it's the most destructive. Long lining
Yes.
is setting these really long lines filled with hooks to catch usually like tuna and other like big migrating fish. And but it has lots
Yeah.
of bycatch. So they have been studying the effect it has on particularly on sharks, and they have discovered that like in 2023 there were around 500,000 blue sharks that were I think it was blue sharks that were caught as bycatch and
How many?
died, and 500,000,
Gee,
half a mil
wow. Just in that area.
in yeah in the Tasman Sea.
That's awful.
It's heartbreaking, really. And yeah, they had a statistic. I don't remember it, but you know, that's one of those ways of visualization that if you put them in
Yeah, yeah,
line
yeah.
to like one after the other, you could get
Oh,
to
yeah.
the space station or something like that, like some huge distance. Yeah.
Mm. And so part of the campaigning that you're going to be doing for that area is to talk about things like that. So we can actually, and again, this is like not knowing what's happening out there, but bringing the information in so we can be more informed about the care that may or may not be needed out in those spaces is really important, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's to get people
Mm.
to learn and to care. Like people care. Like the thing is, it's because this is an area
Yeah,
where no one lives that is so remote. Like most of us will not have a chance to really be there because it's just like really deep ocean. So it is
totally.
really important. It is really important to talk about it, to share it, to get
Mm.
those images from the expeditions, to learn about it so that we can like share the love and make like care about it and show politicians and decision makers that this is important, this matters. So
Yes.
it's part
And
of that
and it's
work to
fair to
bring
say
them.
that,
Yeah, sorry.
yeah, exactly, matey, exactly. Um, And so with the sort of going back to bottom trawling, because that's another campaign that you are working very hard on, and Ellie's worked very hard on bottom trawling over the years as well. Yeah, can we talk a little bit about bottom trawling now and what's happening with the campaigning that you're doing? And maybe if we just start off with talking about why bottom trawling is so destructive.
Yeah, well, bottom trawling, as I mentioned before, is the most destructive way of fishing that is available currently, and it's a type of industrial fishing that basically, just running through the basics for anyone that maybe doesn't know the details, it basically consists on a ship dragging a huge weighted net that gets dropped to the bottom of the floor, in the case of bottom trawling, to the bottom of the ocean, and it drags along the way, just scooping everything on its way. So they then bring this huge net up back into the boat, and they grab the fish that they were aiming for, and everything else just gets thrown overboard because they're not interested. So the problem it has is it's highly destructive. It's non-selective, so you're catching everything, and that means not only like it's killing every form of life on its way, but it's also destroying the ecosystem where they live, where they reproduce, where they feed. And that is hugely damaging for the environment. On top of that, it moves the sediment, it lifts the sediment on the floor, and that releases carbon that in turn affects climate change as well. And that's all like the direct impacts that bottom trawling has, and that are by themselves really damaging, really destructive, and they are reason enough for it to not happen. But on top of that,
Yes.
this is destructive because, as Ellie mentioned before, New Zealand is the last country bottom trawling in the South Pacific high seas, out here in these international waters in our region. New Zealand is the last one, and because the industry wants to keep bottom trawling and has the ear of the minister, then New Zealand has been acting as the bad guy. It's unfortunately New Zealand is the bad guy when it comes to bottom trawling, and in international forums, when other countries try to enact protection, it is New Zealand that stands in the way and stops it. So
that blows my mind, dude, because I've heard about this, right? So a lot of countries around the world have stopped bottom trawling over the decades because it has decimated habitat for sea life, biodiversity, and everything we need to have healthy ecosystems. New Zealand has decided to keep going, even though there's overwhelming support from the general public to stop bottom trawling, and basically everyone apart from the fishing industry, right?
yeah, the polling that we've had, it's right around 80% of the people want bottom trawling gone. It's
yes. Yeah, and then the Hauraki Gold. And so it's really interesting that even though there's overwhelming support to stop bottom trawling, it continues. Can you talk a little bit about the work that you're doing and why, and how that will shift those decision makers, or how we aim to shift the decision makers and the decisions that they're making through the work that you're doing in the campaigning?
Yeah, well, we are as an organization, we believe in people power, and we believe that like the way we get those changes enacted is first by like getting all the people together and speaking with one voice, and like showing the decision makers, which in this case are the government, that this is not acceptable anymore, that they need to listen to the people and to what the people care about, which in this case is ocean protection. So we campaign on it, we teach people, well, we educate, we communicate, we bring people together, we gather the footage, and there's several pieces of work of that. So a really important part of that is the scientific, like the research part, like
Yes.
the going to the places, using the ships that we have to investigate and get the information so that we can make a proper scientific evidence-based case of what is going on, and try to get policy on that. Unfortunately, this government does not really care much about the environment. We do not expect them to enact like protection as it is. We believe that if we put enough pressure, it will happen. Maybe in the next government, maybe one of these guys will find a conscience before that. But yeah, it is a matter of showing that this is the will of the people, and there's a history of this working before. Like there's the nuclear free movement, there's the women's rights movement, the civil rights. All this stuff have happened because people keep speaking up and keep saying this is what we want and this is what matters. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's what Greenpeace is so good at. It's that continued, sustained pressure, raising awareness, growing education. Like you say, 85% of people want bottom trawling gone. We know it's bad. We know how bad it is. And it's just keeping that. Every time you get a chance to sign a petition, be part of an action. I mean, there was a really wonderful action that we did down at Mission Bay, Love for the Hauraki Gulf, which brought lots and lots of people out to celebrate the aroha and love for the Hauraki Gulf, but also to really learn and understand and speak out about this, about bottom trawling and what a bad practice it is, right? Yeah, there it is. What a day. It was such a beautiful day. People from all around the community, from all around Auckland came out. There were boats that came over from Waiheke, Great Barrier, all around. And so you're right, mate. Yeah, people power, people showing up, taking action like this. Yeah, I love these days.
Yeah, that's what we're all about.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what really, like, well, as you mentioned before, like there's no denying that things are serious. Like the ocean is in trouble. But what gives me hope is that all these people care, and that there's everyone, there's so much support and there's so much desire for things to get better, to give the ocean a chance, to protect it, to get some sanctuaries going where life can thrive. And that, in the end, I know we will win. Like there's no stopping that. Like that as you mentioned, it's really just the fishing industry that wants to keep going with this. And they have outsized power because they have access to the decision makers, to the politicians. But that will not last forever. And if we keep pushing,
that's right,
we're gonna win.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally believe that too, Mandy. And Ellie, in your experience with the bottom trawling campaigning that you've done over the years, what are the things that you've seen that have really worked well or made a difference? Like what are some of the exciting things that you've seen that have really helped drive the banning of bottom trawling forward over these years?
Interesting question. I mean, I guess the first thing is we haven't banned it, unfortunately. So we obviously haven't done the best thing yet.
No.
But I mean, some of the favorite things that have happened, like through our campaigning and others, like yourself and groups like Forest and Bird, WWF, the DSCC, community groups. I think Legacy, the recreational fishing body. I think that that flotilla that we called it, the Hauraki flotilla that we had back in 2023, that was really powerful for me, because I think, like we've discussed before, a lot of this campaign with bottom trawling, we're dealing with the deep sea, really inaccessible places that you have to travel for a long time to get to. It's hard for people to touch, it's hard for people to feel. And the beautiful thing about the Hauraki thing was that people had somewhere to be, and it's like it's happening in their backyard, and they felt motivated to come out. And I think it was pretty bad weather from memory on that day, but we had swimmers in the water, we had paddle boarders, we had kayakers dragging that giant bottom trawling banner out. All the wreck fishers came down, and it was really, when you see people from lots of different parts of society coming together, that's when I feel like we've got real strength, because it's not just the greenies, it's not just one type of person, but we were all agreed on this issue that this has got to stop. So I thought that was really powerful. I mean, it unfortunately didn't stop it, but it was a huge, as Juan said, like a show of people power. I mean, other tactics, I'm always inspired by people who stand up and are prepared to stand or sit in the way of the bad thing. And I think, we've had lots of activists who have blocked or stood in the way or paddled in the way of a bottom trawl vessel to try and prevent it from at least temporarily carrying out its activity.
And can I just say, whenever I see those photos of the Greenpeace heroes jumping in the middle of the ocean in front of these boats and doing these things, I would never do that. Like, I could never and would never do that. It's nuts. Like, it's nuts in the way that it's really extreme, and it's obviously there's a lot of skill in play, but I'm amazed. I think it's amazing the lengths that that you all go to highlight these issues, and some of the things you do that I would never do in my lifetime, but I really admire.
It's hugely brave. Yeah, it's really brave. But I think that what I would actually say is that what I really like about this campaign, or I think what has given it a lot of power, even though we haven't won, but we will,
Not
is
yet,
that
we will though.
actually we have come at it from all angles. Like, there is the public stuff, there is that, individuals bravely standing up for the thing that they want to stop. There is the coming together of communities, and that kind of like flotilla people power. But there's also all this stuff that happens in the background that people don't see. So, and there's obviously the research side that is carried out, but there's all of the conversations, the alliance building, the lobbying, the report writing, the briefing. We really have gone from every angle to try and push forward putting a stop to this fishing method on these sensitive habitats.
Yes.
So I think that there's strength in that, in kind of an assortment of different avenues to change.
Yeah, and like you say, the unity of all different groups of people from society who love the ocean coming together and going, we all agree that this has got to go, and the amount of petitions that have been signed and everything. Like, it's such an amazing place to be, where it's only where it's so clear now, because you've swept away all the other noise. It's so clear now that it's just the government decision makers in the industry that are continuing to do this, regardless of all the research and all the feedback from people. They're just ignoring it all, and this is and it drives. I'll rant just for a second, but it drives me nuts when you have such amazing research and organisations like you put so much time and effort into this wonderful scientific research, and it's not taken into account in these decisions. I think it's crazy, but
and it's why
you've
got to have all the things together, right? And it's really interesting that you say that, because
exactly
you can be quite siloed about it, or sort of blinkered about it. And I think sometimes when you talk to one part of a particular community, they think that just doing this thing over here is going to win. But I actually think it all strengthens itself. And I think, I'm under no illusion that going out and doing that research itself, for instance, on the Seamount expedition, that is not going to stop bottom trawling. You have got to get the proof, and then you've got to push as hard as you can with lots of people behind you to get that societal change. That's how change happens.
And it's such a pity that we have to prove the damage that's been done by people who are allowed to damage these sensitive regions, and still are.
They're still
over. I love a good rant, you know this, Ellie.
I mean, that's the thing. And I mean, I would just say that was, I've probably said this line too many times, but when we put those cameras down in the Tasman, and you could see coming up on the screen from these heavily trawled areas what they had actually done there, it was really shocking, and you couldn't believe that it would be like defendable, like, by that industry, and that they're still allowed to go out and do it. It's pretty shocking.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what makes that work that you're doing so valuable too, though, right?
This is it.
So what are we looking at here, Tim?
So this is the heavily trawled seamount. This is a bit, I should have chosen a slightly different shot than this, but this was out on the Challenger Plateau, which is in the Tasman Sea, in the high seas. And basically, on some of these dives that we did on the expedition, you're dropping the camera down, and then you're towing it behind the vessel. sometimes for like 3 hours or something like that. And on this particular dive, we were surveying directly over known trawl tracks, and we just saw like fields of coral rubble for hours and hours and hours and hours. And some days were just like that. And so and it was really grueling, like watching.
So this should be coral that's up and lovely, but this is just like, this is crumbled.
It's dead and it's smashed. Yeah. And I should have chosen a slightly different shot, because there are some where you can you get a bit more of the perspective, but the scale of it was really, really shocking. It was quite insane. And for it to go on for hours, you're covering almost a kilometer in a transect line, and you're just seeing total obliteration.
Yes, and these are the things we can't see. These are the things that are happening out there that no one can see, and is just denied, which is why, again, it's so important that this mahi that you've done to gather these images is so important.
It's kind of like a deep sea bearing witness in a way. I mean, I think I don't know whether we've got it in the slide deck, but years and years ago, like 20 years ago, there's that infamous image that some people on this probably remember.
Oh, yeah.
That was in the Tasman Sea. So 20 years ago, we were campaigning about
Was
this.
it?
Obviously, it wasn't me or Juan. But 20 years ago, they went out with the Rainbow Warrior, and they were trying to document what was happening at the hands of these bottom trawlers. And they were out for weeks, and they managed to capture this iconic shot, which I don't know how many times we have used this over the years, countless. But that is an ancient piece of coral. I think that was aged at hundreds of years old, that has come up in a New Zealand bottom trawling net, and then it's being discarded over the side. So this is the kind of destruction we're talking about in exactly the place we're talking about. And I think what's really important about this image is it's not just a powerful image, but at that time, the fishing industry was saying, we don't touch the bottom. We fly the nets over the bottom.
Right. Yeah.
And this is the kind of thing that happens when you go out and bear witness. You can actually say, well, actually, this is what you're doing. And the impact of that, while it didn't ban bottom trawling, was that this image was beamed directly into a UN meeting that was discussing new rules for bottom trawling. It is part of the reason we got a UNGA resolution on bottom trawling. That resolution has not been implemented, but I think it's really important to recognize that this bearing witness work and this going and actually just like seeing what the impact is so important, because I will note that 20 years later, in 2025, the fishing industry are still telling us that they're flying their nets over the bottom.
Same line. They're using the same line.
And I learned more about the shot because, like you say, it's historic, and I didn't understand the full story about this. But the way I look at it, and the way I understand it is, that's an 800-year-old kaumatua of the ocean. That's a Kodi tree. That's an 800-year-old Pahutakawa tree. Like, that is what we're looking at. And so while the size of it, on land and trees, it looks and feels different, that's basically what we're looking at. And that's just one day, one photo. And it's when you think about it in that way, that this is an ancient taonga. It's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking.
It really is. Yeah. I mean, it's so right what you say. I mean, lots of people care about the ocean, but I think if we were doing this to forests on land, it would be atrocious. And it's just because we can't see it and we can't show what they're doing day on day. But
yeah, that's what I was thinking today, actually, leading into this. Like, if we could actually see from land or on land, if it was happening on land, the behavior of the entire industry would be different. But it's because we can't see them, and they can hide behind that, and they, very cleverly do. That, like I say, this work that you're doing is so important. So now, just on the main campaign things that are coming up, is there anything else coming up that you want to talk about or highlight for our lovely audience tonight? Because we are running towards the end, and then we'll get into some Q&A.
No, I think
Yeah.
the Rainbow Warrior is probably the biggest thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that's exciting. Well, we do have a couple of questions here on the question board, so I'll throw to those. I'll do those quickly. So here's one. Has the New Zealand government ratified the treaty? We're talking about the Global Oceans Treaty, I'm assuming. And how can we help?
Yeah, I mean so they haven't yet ratified, but we do believe that they will. So part of the process has been completed, so it has passed cabinet approval stage, and what's next is the next part of that process. So we've been told that they're on track to ratify in 2026. So they won't meet the sort of the deadline we were hoping for, which was mid this year, but they do say that they will ratify the treaty.
Great, thank you, Ale. And for people who don't understand the process, what do you mean by ratify? Like, what's the deal with ratification?
It's essentially like the bringing into New Zealand law that new international treaty. So like whenever you agree a new international treaty, it has to kind of be brought into New Zealand law. So that's essentially the process, and it's quite, convoluted.
Okay, cool. Okay, anything else you want to add to that, Juan?
No, that's it. It's a process that needs to happen in every country, and every country has their own like set of rules and different like parliamentary houses or Senate or Congress or whatever. And that's it's just like the process of integrating it into its law so that it can actually have any force. And yeah, we're
Great.
really hopeful that it will happen here. It's underway.
Okay, awesome. Well, we'll keep informed and updated from you about that. Here's a good question. Will the regulatory bills, standards bill, have an impact on the aspirations to develop protected areas of significance for marine life and systems? So what impact, if any, will the regulatory standards bill have?
That's a really interesting one. I mean, I think potentially it could, I don't know enough about it, I'll be honest, but I think it could impact domestic marine protection. But I think because we're talking about this international waters, I'm not sure that the regulatory standards bill would have an impact on that, because essentially it's outside of New Zealand's sort of jurisdiction.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, last one more from Zahara. As a marine conservation master student, what can I and fellow students do towards these issues on a larger scale? So they sign the petitions and do marching. What else can they do to help? And Zahara is going to go back and report to her university clubs who want to get more involved with Greenpeace marine conservation efforts. So, yeah, what else can Zahara and her friends do?
Yeah, well, there's obviously the petitions and the marching and all that stuff is really important, and it's a great start. So it sounds like you've already got a good start going. But then it's well, you can volunteer with us. You can do stuff with Greenpeace, so you can get involved, and you can like one of the most important things is like be active, be engaged, write to your MP, seek other people that are concerned about the same things, get together, talk about it, and do something like do the things that need to be done. There's already lots of people doing the mahi, so find them and put your hands together and we can change it. Yeah, so it can be us. Like Greenpeace is always happy to have more people helping, to have volunteers to come on our activities, but it can also be something local. It can be someone near you that's making sure a stream is cleaned, a beach is being cleaned up, or or things that need to be talked about or taught to the kids in in your region. Or yeah, there's many ways to get involved, and it's just realizing that you're not alone and find the people that want to work with you.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's
And
such an important point too. Yeah, being involved in your local community, finding your people, and knowing that you're not alone, mate. Sorry, Ellie, you were going to say?
no. It's a delight. I was just going to add that, Zahara, as a marine conservation student, I mean, it would be great for you to connect with us directly as well. I mean, we do collaborate with scientists and researchers, so any things like that,
Yeah.
we want to hear from you. And yeah,
Definitely, yes.
Yes, amazing. Now, and what else can people do? So, I mean, like we've talked about a lot of different ways people can help, finding out what's happening in their local community, keeping across all of the activities that Greenpeace is doing. What else, guys? What else, Juan, from you? How else can we support you with the campaigns you're running and what you're doing?
Well, if you've already signed the petition and if you're already here, then you are engaged. You are pretty involved already. So we would invite you to keep in the know with the tour that's coming up. Come volunteer if you want to help us with the open boats, and you get to be close to the Rainbow Warrior. If you want, if you can, donate some money to keep Greenpeace going. That's also very helpful. We have a WhatsApp channel that we're starting out to communicate about this tour, so you can join the WhatsApp channel and be on the know, and
Awesome.
tell your friends, tell your family, bring more
Yeah.
people together, and yeah, the more of us there is, the more power we have. So that.
Absolutely. Do you have a bottom trawling quiz going? Is that?
Oh yeah, there's a bottom trolling quiz too
All
that you
right. Where
can
can
do,
people
and
find that, maybe?
I think our friend Emma and Elliot will probably post a link on the chat, because I don't have it handy right now.
Beautiful.
But there's a
Beautiful.
channel they've just posted.
Beautiful. Amazing. And Ellie,
is the
what
question.
are the other things that we can do? Quick fire, few things that everyone can do to support you with the mahi that you're doing at the moment.
Oh wow. Okay, well,
Support the cause.
when we release the findings from the Seamounts expedition, please watch and share all of the findings. We worked very hard to get that stuff, and yeah, it would be great to see
Yes.
go far and wide. As I mentioned earlier, I mean, yeah, reaching out to your MP and just making a real impassioned plea that you would like to see change on fisheries, and you'd like to see change on oceans protection. I think for me, and probably lots of people on this call, it really shocks me and makes me very sad that here in Aotearoa we have such little ocean protection, that we've fallen so far behind. Like, it's such
Yeah.
a rich
Yeah.
marine environment. I feel very lucky
Mm.
that I get to go and experience it, but it is in decline. And I think if we don't act really, really fast, like, we're going to see, you know, our kids and their kids, they won't experience the same level of beauty and biodiversity that we have. So yes, write to your MP, share things with your friends, talk about bottom trawling, share the oceans documentary, share the Seamounts findings. Yeah, and sign up if
Yes.
you haven't already.
Yeah. So that the more information we share, the more we all get behind any actions to look after our ocean, to protect what we already have, and also to restore what's been lost is so important for us, right?
Totally.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, I think we're on our final minute. Is there anything else that you guys would like to share before I take us into the night?
I want to share this photo that's very special for me. Let me just bring it up. It's earlier this year we went to Matauri Bay, where the original Rainbow Warrior is sunk. So after it was bombed, it was turned into an artificial reef in Matauri Bay. And this is me on the right hand, on your right, and since another workmate, a colleague from Greenpeace, we're diving the wreck of the Rainbow Warrior. and sending this message that we will not be silenced. It specifically refers to the SLAP lawsuit, the lawsuit that Greenpeace USA is facing, but it is just a general statement of Greenpeace in general. We will not stop. We will not be silenced. We will keep on fighting for the things that matter, for life in this precious blue planet, and that's really what matters. I feel really lucky and really privileged that I have the opportunity to see the resting place of the original rainbow warrior and see how it's become a home for all these creatures, all these fish that live there, and that it continues being a protector of life in this planet. It was just so beautiful, and yeah, it sort of made me feel that we are part of this legacy, of this tradition of people that have worked so hard and that keep fighting and standing up for life in this planet. So yeah, just wanted to share that.
Yes,
That
Mandy.
that's very important.
Mandy, before we finish, that was really beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing, Juan. We've been really rude and we didn't ask about what you were up to and the campaign you're working on and the Hauraki and what people can do to support that.
Hey, never rude. There's just always so much to talk about when we get together. Well, just quickly, yeah. So I'm just about to release a documentary series. It's an online digital series called Heal the Hauraki. It's a solutions-based documentary series about how we can heal the Hauraki Gulf and the people in the communities that are doing really beautiful work to restore the Hauraki Gulf and restore the Mauri of the Hauraki Gulf. healthehauraki.co.nz or .com. We're on all the socials, Facebook, Insta. We just launched our trailer for the series, like literally an hour before this talk. So exciting, really, really exciting.
World
so
premiere.
check it out. That's right, mate. Yeah, so check it out, support it. Like anything you can do to support oceans, looking after our oceans and restoring and protecting our oceans. We're all about it. So thank you. I just want to say to you guys, thank you so much for having me, for inviting me to tonight. As always, I love catching up with you guys and hearing what's happening. Thank you, Juan. Thank you, Ellie. And also thank you to everyone that joined us tonight and tuned in. I hope you learned something. I hope you have lots of questions. Go to the Greenpeace website and follow their socials for the answers or maybe more questions, but get involved. And yeah, just thank you everyone for coming along and being part of tonight and being interested in caring and all the actions that you do take for the oceans.
Thank you,
Cara,
Mandy.
thank you, Mandy. Yeah.
Thanks behind the scenes team. Right. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you, everyone.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming.
Por Maria. Good night.
Por Maria.